Camille, the host of I Want Your Job, and I'm here at the Vogue 2026 Summit, Optimism in Motion. On my podcast, we speak a lot about dread for the future. So I'm really excited to hear from the speakers today about how we can remain hopeful in a rapidly changing world. This episode is a little different. The other week, I got invited to Vogue Codes Summit 2026, Optimism in Motion, and I had the opportunity to interview a bunch of the panel speakers and also some people from Vogue about the summit and about technology, AI, agency, women in STEM, a whole bunch of things. So this episode is going to be potentially a little choppy, and I do apologize for that. But I'm going to be cutting in and out of me kind of giving you some context, and then I will jump into the interviews throughout the day. I spend a lot of time talking to people about their jobs, and oftentimes the conversation does swing into a little bit of dread or unease and existentialism, is that a word? And I mean, when I started this podcast, it was very step by step of how do you get that job. And recently it's become more existential. It's become more about how the world is changing so quickly, how AI is shifting how we work, how being a woman changes how we work, which is all very interesting and all things that I love speaking about. But I know it scares us. Dread was something that kind of came up a lot within the summit, but there were solutions and there was a lot of positivity around it. So I think it was a really interesting and invigorating day, and it's something that I wanted to share with you guys. So I thought, what better way to start this episode than speak to Nikki Chowdhury, who is the Director of Audience at Vogue Australia. I was really keen to understand more about her vision for the event as she was the curator of it, and hear more about her idea of optimism in motion. I'm here with Nikki Chowdhury, who is the Director of Audience at Vogue. You have curated this event. What was one thought that kind of kept popping into your mind while curating it?
I think the biggest thing is last year we talked a lot about how the way tech moves isn't inevitable and we have control over where it goes. And I think that was something that was really front of mind for this year. Obviously, there's a lot of valid anxiety and fear when it comes to AI and tech and all of these industries and how fast the world is moving.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that you can't change what you don't believe you can change. And I think this year in particular, we really wanted to hone in on optimism. We really looked at the women who were physically and figuratively building the world of tomorrow. One thing I really wanted to highlight was that there is change happening and there are people in the room who are championing human-first technology and women-first technology. And it's just like a privilege every year to be able to platform them.
Well, what I'm getting out of the event so far, like we are only halfway through, but the speakers aren't just relying on technology and AI. They are seeing it as something that can kind of evolve humans. You mentioned algorithmic consciousness when you were speaking. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I don't know if I've coined that, but
Let's say you did.
Let's say I did. So algorithmic consciousness, I talked about it on a podcast actually, I think a year ago. And it's basically the idea is humans becoming more aware of the way algorithms shape the way they think.
Right.
And I think most of us, when we consume content, we're pretty passive about it. We don't necessarily know why we stopped and started to write a comment. We don't necessarily know what made us like something. We don't necessarily know, or maybe we do know when we're being rage baited, but in the moment, it can kind of take over. The term refers to that awareness when you're using this technology about how it's changing you and how it's changing the way you think and feel and see the world. So that's what it refers to.
How, like mentioning how we think and feel and see, how do we ensure that technology expands opportunity rather than inequality?
With everything, you have to be thoughtful about how you apply tech. you don't just use it for everything. It's important to have discipline in how you use the technology because it does change the way your brain works. Like we know that excessive use of AI can impact cognitive function, but I think like everything, you don't be a glutton with it. You know, you're thoughtful about where you apply it. You're thoughtful about where you don't apply it. At Vogue, we center human creativity in everything we do. And while we may use some of this tech to speed run an Excel spreadsheet, we never use it for writing articles. We never use it to replace a photographer or to replace a model. And I think that's really key to it. You just have to be thoughtful and center the human in every decision you make.
Well, I just heard in the Indigenous knowledge chat that they talked about hands and how AI can never replace the human hand.
In the age that we're in now with AI, I think the most important thing is this idea of making things with your hands, right? AI can't make a thing with its hands yet. Hopefully not soon, but that craft of doing things with your fingers will just become more valuable.
And I think that's something really special about Vogue Codes. Even though it's all about technology, we're really feeling quite human within it. Like, it's so inspiring to see all these incredible women speaking about things that I think, especially for a lot of my audience and probably for a lot of Vogue's audience, we feel a lot of dread for the future. It's really relieving to see that there isn't dread for the future. So thank you for providing that.
You're also welcome.
Speaking with Nikki, a word that did jump out to me, was the word agency, and it is something that kind of was mentioned throughout the entirety of the day. Everyone was speaking about agency, which I thought was really interesting in terms of technology and AI was taking our agency back. Speaking about being aware of the rise of AI and tech, I had the pleasure of speaking to Kik's founder, Laura Henshaw. We also spoke about motherhood and the trepidations of becoming a mother or taking on these other beautiful life opportunities instead of focusing on your career. I think we both really related to one another about how much we want to have a successful career and how much we love putting energy and time into our career. So yeah, how do you balance it all? She was great to speak to. Lovely woman.
Laura just said she's holding breast milk.
Yes, I am. Fresh.
You mentioned in your panel that you were quite scared to become a mother because of whether it might change or ruin your career. I'd love to hear more about that because I definitely have had the same fears.
Oh, I mean, I think it's something that, as someone who cares a lot about their career, and for me, my career has always been a bigger part of my identity. And I know people say, like, you have to release it from your identity, but I
don't want to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, which is okay, right? So I was always scared, like, am I going to lose it? I think for me, it's definitely been a journey. I'm only 6 months postpartum, but my drive and my ambition is absolutely still here. I think for me, it's just been taking maybe the first 6 months to 12 months. Oh, we got to go? Okay.
So we had to move spots. We got kicked off the last area, but we're back. You were talking about how you're 6 months postpartum. How has your career kind of changed from post-baby?
So I feel like for me, the way that I'm thinking about my career now is I feel like as I said, I've still got my drive, I've still got my ambition. I feel like I'm in the car. The car is my analogy of my career. And I do not want to get out of the car.
No.
I still want to stay in this car.
Yeah.
But right now in this moment today, I don't feel like I need to have my foot all the way down on the accelerator. And I think it's like life is in seasons, right? And I feel like I'm in a season right now with a very young baby where it's okay to give myself a little bit of grace and it's okay to not speed down the highway and have my foot all the way down. But I'm starting to feel it get a little bit heavier. But I'm at peace with the fact that I don't always have to have my foot on the accelerator, which is hard, right?
It's so hard, but you can do everything, just not at once.
That has never been so true to me before. Yeah.
And it's exciting to know that you can and that anything is possible, which is what I'm definitely getting out of Vogue Codes today. You mentioned also de-influencing yourself from AI and from the algorithms. How do you do that?
Oh, it's so hard. And it's also important as women that we embrace AI because a lot of my friends that are founders that are men, they've optimized their entire workload with AI. And not the stuff like the creative stuff. There's things that you cannot outsource and we should not outsource because we need to use our brains strategically. We don't want to not be able to think analytically, etc. But I do worry that for a lot of women, if we think like, oh, it's just not for me, that we'll get left behind. So I think it's important, but it is important we still remember the most, like, that I always come back to is like, no one is you. You are unique. And you can tell like when creative content has been done by AI, right?
Yes.
It's the same, right? It's all the same. And it's like, that's also why we don't want to lose ourselves in it.
Yes.
And we still need to stay authentic to ourselves and to not let the algorithm suck us up and tell us who we should be. Like we should still decide that for ourselves.
We should decide that for ourselves. And you also mentioned that we are brands and we, I guess, need to develop our identities both within and outside of AI. Use it to help.
Exactly.
That was Laura Henshaw. Speaking of motherhood and how we have to push ourselves and how we have to prove ourselves, I was really taken aback with the medical matriarchs conversation. Taken aback is the wrong way to say it. It really hit a nerve in me because I relate so much. As you guys probably know, I have bipolar 2. I also have endometriosis. And both of them took so long to diagnose. I had to provide so much proof. I had to really beg to be believed. And this isn't something that is solely a experience that has just happened to me. It has happened to pretty much every woman I speak to. During the panel Medical Matriarchs, I heard from Dr. Amandeep Hansra, who just like really beautifully summed up how I was feeling and what I was wanting to understand.
How many of you in the audience have been to a doctor or a healthcare professional and been told your symptoms were due to stress, anxiety or hormones? Yeah, I'd say that's the majority. And I actually had this experience last year and I ended up in the emergency department and the triage nurse said to me, I'm worried you're having a stroke. She said, that's how bad you look. You need to go in and see the ED doctor. And I sat down with the ED doctor and explained my symptoms and he said to me, have you been anxious lately? And I was like, I don't think anxiety means that I can't move part of my body. But it was quite an eye-opening experience for me because it made me realise I've been on the other side and I've had so many of my patients who have been dismissed by the health system, who've been made to feel too complex, too difficult, whose stories don't make sense. And I think historically women have had to bring their narrative and their stories to 6-minute appointments, which is not long enough to explain the complexities of our bodies because we have hormones, we're not just little men. What we are seeing now though is that women are measuring their own data. You can't just make assumptions about men and then apply them to women. And I think as we've got more women in medicine, that is changing because those women are now becoming medical educators. And again, there's all sorts of barriers to getting professorships, etc. But if we can remove some of those barriers and it's women leading teaching and research and education, then we're going to make sure that the people who are teaching it are going to be the ones that are also represented in the things that we're teaching. We've got to start at the root, which is right from when people are leaving high school, what are we teaching them, to what is happening in their education system, who are they being exposed to, the mentors, the leaders, the teachers, the professors, the researchers, and then that will slowly infiltrate and flow into actually building a health system that's got equity as a foundation.
It was really relieving to hear someone in the medical industry know that this is an issue and that so many of us are struggling. Afterwards, I had the pleasure of speaking with Professor Kate Drummond, who was also on the panel, and we spoke about how having to prove yourself isn't just an experience of people trying to get help, but it's also an experience of women within the medical industry and trying to get a career within the medical industry.
I'd love to know more about who gets left behind in the medical industries and how leaving these people behind kind of take away the voices of others.
Well, I mean, I'll speak from the point of view of neurosurgery,
Yes.
but it's emblematic of everything. So neurosurgery works in a particular way, the training works in a particular way, our work happens in a particular way. So anyone who doesn't fit that mould, anyone who maybe has caring responsibilities, anyone who doesn't have that go for it, aggressive sort of personality, a million little things can get left behind despite their ability to do the job.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't think about this when I was training. I just thought, oh, well, this is fine. There's a lot of men there, but that doesn't matter. But I didn't realise that I fitted into that world as a woman.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm confident, I'm like all of that. And then I suddenly realised, well, if I hadn't have been like that, I would not have been able to train if I hadn't been happy to work that way. So a lot of people get left behind because they don't fit the mould. So we need to make the mould bigger and able to fit in all of those. Yeah, more malleable. Great word.
I really liked what you mentioned about women having to prove themselves with data and with charts and stuff. Can I hear more about that from you?
Well, I mean, the typical is, you know, and I've heard this, you know, people go, oh, no one says that, do they? But I've heard this. If a guy's having a day where he's not doing so well at work, people are like, oh, poor guy, he must be really tired. And, he's been up all night working or whatever. You know, a woman's not at her best one day and it's like, oh, she's got a period or like whatever. And it's like, well, okay, if that's the reason, why does that matter?
Yes.
Or why is that less than he's tired or whatever? But you can't be off. You can't be not performing because you'll be judged.
And you have to be the best woman in the room and way ahead of any man that is there to get any sliver of credit.
And I think that's where that data comes from the US that was published that shows women surgeons have better outcomes, they cost less, etc. than men. It's not because we're inherently better. It's because to get in, we have to be the best. You can be an average man and get into this job. You can't be an average woman and get into this job.
What are you optimistic for about the future of medicine?
Well, I mean, I love it that I see, lots of young women coming through to be neurosurgeons, people with families, people with children, men working in different ways as well. So that's optimistic that the profession will change. But it's not happening fast enough. But it's great that it's at least happening.
Another thread that kept popping up throughout the day was representation. You'll hear from Aleese Musa, who is Vogue's senior video producer, about this.
The people around you know less than you think, and don't let people make you feel like they know more than you just because they might be in a position of power, just because they're your leader. Everyone is learning things as they go. And don't feel like your ideas or thoughts are insignificant because of your position. We're all figuring stuff out at the same time.
Simply put, fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. It's true. It gets people so far. Like, most of the white people that you work with are not...
They don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. So, yeah, don't let that, take away your confidence.
Yeah.
You can figure it out.
I mean, talking about clueless white people.
Yes.
On the topic of.
Come on. On the topic of, yes.
Vogue Australia is so filled with women of colour. Like, the majority of the office is women of colour. How do you think that changes the magazine?
The amount of perspectives that are brought into this space because of our diverse backgrounds is, unmatched. It's unprecedented. Being able to collaborate with people from different backgrounds and different perspectives ultimately makes everything richer. That's just the point blank of it.
Yeah.
And it also allows for controversial, safer space of communication. Where
absolutely.
There's a level of trust and understanding that goes unspoken, and nothing really has to be over explained or over elaborated when you're working with people from, diverse in the sense that, yes, we're from different ethnic backgrounds, but we're all kind of experiencing a very similar kind of experience. Yeah, exactly. So it helps. It's changed the game for people like me who have not really worked in environments like that. It's crazy.
I mean, it changes it for the audience as well.
100%.
Girls can see that they can work at Vogue.
Yeah.
It's epic.
It's true. It's possible, yo. Yeah. I did it. You could do it too.
Ultimately, it's not about who is in the room, but it's about what becomes possible when people are in those spaces. So far, we've heard from Nikki Chowdhury about taking back our agency and algorithmic consciousness, Laura Henshaw on de-influencing ourselves and balance. We've heard from Dr. Amandeep Hansra and Professor Kate Drummond on how we are constantly having to, as women, prove ourselves and push ourselves to be believed. And you just heard from Aleese Musa on not undermining yourself because there is room for you. The final conversation I had on the day was with Lottie Dalziel, who is the CEO and founder of Banish. Speaking with her, I wanted to understand more about what she sees our future of tech and fashion sustainability looking like.
So Lottie, you are working in sustainable fashion. Can fashion truly be sustainable?
It's a really good question, and I think it's one that everybody's kind of grappling with because we all have to wake up in the morning and we all have to put something on.
Yeah.
So I think it's about choosing the best items that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when I'm kind of grappling with it as an individual, what I'm kind of thinking about from my own moral compass is what can I wear that I already own?
Yeah.
Because ultimately that is the most sustainable fashion purchase. We can feel so much pressure online to be buying something from the algorithm, but ultimately what we've already got at home, keeping that in circulation is the best thing that we can be doing.
We've got things at home, but then there's also designers like Iris Van Herpen, who is creating dresses out of technology. Is that something that we should progress into? Is that the future of fashion?
It's an interesting question, and I don't really know, to be honest. I think for me, something that I feel really passionately about is using and consuming the clothes that already exist, the ones that are already in circulation that could be in your own wardrobe, but it could be at a secondhand shop. We have enough clothing on this planet right now to keep on clothing us for many, many years' time. So for me, that's something that I'm really focusing on, is keeping those items that are built to last in circulation for longer.
My last question for you, what is your industry secret?
Ooh, I think my industry secret is that everybody's figuring it out. We're all on our own sustainability journey. It's not a destination. It is something that's going to continue to evolve. As technology evolves, everything is going to change. And I think that's right. That's all right. We don't need to have it all figured out, but we need to feel comfortable with the fact that we are all learning, and you can be an expert in something one day, but you're going to have to keep on evolving and adapting.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Lottie, for speaking
thanks for
with
having
me.
me.
Speaking to everyone at Vogue Codes was such an incredible opportunity, and I'm literally still so shocked that I even copped an invite to interview people. I could not do that without this podcast. I walked away feeling so inspired and so invigorated about what our future holds. I think my key takeaways were keeping your agency, keeping your true identity, keeping your creativity, and not allowing technology to push that aside, not following others like sheep, and continuing what you want to do. There is room for you out there, and it's exciting that there are women opening those spaces for us as well, while also carving their own paths. We're all so uncertain about our careers, if it's what the hell am I going to do when I grow up, or what does the future actually look like. And so there is fear, and I think that wasn't hidden in the day. We're all confused. And I like that a lot of people had uncertainty, but I think ultimately the idea of optimism in motion looks like uncertainty. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We make the future, and you make your own future in your own life path. It's important to not get swept up by all these things that are happening, and that's kind of a key takeaway that I got from these women. They have all created their path, and they are pushing for change, and they are making that change because they are literally just getting off their asses and doing it. So if there is something that you want, if there is a career that you want to go out and do, if there's someone whose job you want, you can actually just get that. It's actually not that hard, which is a scary thing to do and such a mean thing for me to say in a way, but like you can actually just go do it. And that's exciting. I hope you liked this episode. I hope it was interesting, and I hope you enjoyed getting a little insight into the world of Vogue and all these impeccable people. I had a blast. I loved going to the event. It was so cool. I felt really important. But yeah, I'm sorry that I'm all over the shop. I've had a week. And so my brain isn't really working, which is why this video is very late, but that's okay. You persevere and you keep moving on, I guess. Next week, you'll be hearing from Aleese Hale, the music editor at Rush Magazine. Till then, you can go follow me over on Instagram at IWantYourJob_, and let me know who you want to hear from next. I'm always eager to get new guests that you want to hear from. I'm Camille Allen, and this was I Want Your Job. Bye.